Welcome back to MyFinJourney. Today's guest is Michelle Howe, founder of Empath Evolution, where she works with high capacity leaders to align their perceived power and regain clarity in complex, high pressure environments. With over 15 years of experience as a CPA and strategy consultant, Michelle has helped senior executives, founders, and entrepreneurs navigate internal friction and align their decision making, leadership, and boundaries with a deeper, more reliable sense of authority. Her work is grounded in the science of emotional intelligence and relationship dynamics, designed to help leaders shift from simply managing the chaos to becoming fully integrated, allowing their leadership to flow naturally rather than through sheer effort. If you're in a high performance role and feel that subtle internal, this episode will be a game changer. Michelle, welcome to MyFinJourney.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So Michelle, I really want to understand how you got to where you are. The idea of working with people in high pressure situations, the idea of working with high performers, in theory, they got to be high performers because they didn't need anyone's help. So I'd really love to understand your background and what led you to where you are today.
Good question. Let's see. High achiever, intuitive, had everything kind of outlined when I was a teenager. This is what I'm going to do. This is where it's going to go. Then I'm just going to go here. But as life started unfolding for me, it became apparent that even with my best plan, yeah, I could stick with it. It was going a certain way. But when I had children, I completely changed. My priorities shifted. And I didn't, here's this side of me that's very structured, that's very, let's go, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then there was another side. No, I don't think so. I don't think what you're doing is what I really want you to do, Michelle. And I would have this inner battle between these two sides of myself. And, of course, the stronger side would be like, no, you're going to do that. And I don't know that all leaders have this, but I had a very engaging inner world. I liked my calm. I liked things planned out. Once things started to shift around and it was an internal conflict really going on. What do I really want? What is oh, you can do this. If they can do this, you can do this. And then it became, I just didn't know why I was kind of losing my footing around. Life was throwing me different situations that I didn't quite always know what to do with, where I had always praised myself for being able to see the silver lining, for being able to see through the facades that were in front of me, to see the lay in front of me. So there came a point where I had to, as much as I had figured out life, or I thought I had mastered my life, I landed face planted right in front of myself. And, from the outside, everything looked great. I looked like everything was working fine, but things were not working fine inside. And I found very few people who really could understand or appreciate where I was at. And of course, you don't want to be, not that I didn't want to be too open. This was that sensitive and that vulnerable of a topic that I didn't really just want to open up the floodgates for people who had no idea what to even tell me, right? They didn't need to know my business. So what happened was I went through this period of time where I really kind of crashed, depression and everything else, because I could not figure out the things that I attracted into my life and why I was as confused or as emotionally driven as I felt like I was on a roller coaster. And it was not a great place to be. Not for a person who had never really been on the roller coaster, because I always was very good about keeping my life, my way, settled, balanced. Like I was very protective of myself. So going through that shift was what I call an awakening. I awakened to the fact that I could sense and feel I had more of a inner world than maybe what anybody talked about on the outside, that I was quite intuitive. I was very empathic. I'm like, okay, what is all this about? So I dove deeper into the wellness. I tried psychotherapy. That was horrible, horrible, horrible. It just did not work. And I found like a lot of things that resonated with me within different religions, physical stuff. So I started really, it shaped who I was. And now I wasn't just doing business consulting with a person. I understood that I really was able to relate with them on a different level, and I understood what they needed. And it wasn't, I was helping them with their business, but I really saw the business as a means for them to grow. So it shifted my radar to understand who I was more and what I was doing in every engagement and every minute that I was with people. So, and then I decided I didn't want to just do accounting work and consulting work that was too transactional. I'm like, I really love to explore and help people who I can sense are struggling inside. I didn't want to be a therapist. I wanted to kind of just bring some sort of understanding around emotional stuff that wasn't really ever vocalized, or, emotional intelligence. Let's put this into an intellectual thing. I was very much about feeling, and I looked around and I saw everybody thinking, and I'm like, but this person's feelings are hurt. This person's insecure over here. This person's got that going on over there. Like, I could just sense during the engagement what was going on. And I'm like, no, this is way too transactional. These meetings, these connections need to come to a human point. And it starts with really understanding yourself and that human that you are inside, and possibly even accepting that human that you are inside. I had to come to peace with these two sides of myself. One, the very strong, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And the other one's like, could you please leave me alone? Could you please settle down? Could you please, like, and one would sabotage the other. So I had to bring all sides of me to the table. That's how I got to this place. So that's where Empath Evolution was born. And at first, Empath Evolution was about being an empath. I'm like, oh my God in heaven, all these people out there, they're struggling. They're all empaths, right? Okay, everybody can sense and feel, but most people don't know what to do with it. So they find things to dumb down, to shut down their brain, to dumb down their emotions so they don't feel so out of control. So in the last couple of years, I've pivoted away, and it's more about inner authority. It's more about not losing yourself in the middle of all this, the shtick that we're all walking through, right? And it's discovering who that is, so that once you step into a space, you are a lot more integrated is a word, embodied is a word. You're a lot more sure of where your footing is and what you believe in and where you're going. And if something doesn't work with your path forward, if something doesn't meet these, it's almost like it opens up all of these potentials. You become more trusting, more connected, more present, more of all of that. So that's what I do.
Love that, Michelle. I feel like you threw a lot at us, so I want
I
to
did.
maybe slow it
I
down
did.
and
I
kind of
did.
go back if that's okay.
That's good.
Michelle, I feel like you started by saying, like, things were going well, things were scaling well, and I had kids, and maybe that was the first change. So I wanted to pause there, if that's okay, and really unpack that. Do you think, from your perspective, that having kids is a major life change that, impacts men and women and therefore impacts how they show up in the workplace?
I think having kids changes the essence of your priorities shift completely, and they become the most important thing. At least in my case, some parents don't experience it that way, but my experience was these kids need me. I am their mother. As that, in that role, this is what they're going to need. So I took a stronger responsibility with it. Your last part was, how does that impact how they show up in the workplace? They're going to be more distracted depending on what's going on. It's not, if the home is not solid and the kids are not cared for, how could you show up at work like everything is okay? Like, it's more, you're balancing more balls. There's more complexity in your life. How do you navigate that? Everybody does it a little different. That's can be difficult.
I hear you, Michelle. I hear you. I guess the next question that I have for you is, it feels like sometimes you need a bit of flux, you need a bit of challenge, you need a little bit of adversity to really realize the importance of empathy, to really realize the importance of feelings, to really realize the importance of, like, slowing down and reflecting on your own feelings. I wanted to understand, Michelle, from your perspective, have things changed, pre-COVID versus, post-COVID, in terms of the average clients that you see, the challenges people are experiencing, etc.?
Well, I think COVID was a difficult phase for people. It hasn't changed that much what I see. COVID didn't impact it. As a matter of fact, most of my clients were very happy for COVID because they got a break from the noise of being in hustle, bustle, busy. Being at home was a reprieve for them. But I think for most people who are extroverts, they're going to have a hard time with not connecting with other people in the same way, because there was a support system at work. Now you're more on your own. It's the same thing as being an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, and being on your own. It's a little bit difficult to be solo.
I, I hear you, Michelle. So tell us maybe what is the average profile of a client that you see? Like, what is their background? What are the challenges that they're experiencing? And maybe how you help upskill them.
So, my average client, I have two that are in mind. One, an attorney going through a divorce, and she just was ready to focus on herself, repair, heal from 20 years of experiences with her husband that weren't the best. And so she took the time to just focus on herself and kind of process through each stage and release the emotions that were associated with that so that she could prepare for the next level, next stage of her life. That's one example. And this is private mentorship with her. And the other one was an engineer, a founder of her own firm. And she just was feeling overwhelmed being an entrepreneur and knowing that she was very empathic. She needed a stabilizing force. How do I deal with these employees? How do I deal with the pressures that I'm under? How do I not absorb what's going on around me? And we worked at that level with her. Last year, I had Expansion to Joy, which is a small group cohort. And basically, we worked on helping. They all came with very different scenarios, but helping them be more in tune and trusting of what they were feeling and where they were going and following that direction. A lot of times people, like if you're in the middle of your life, you don't always see, like you feel something isn't right. You'll even intellectually understand something or see it, but changing something that you're feeling, changing a dynamic in your day to day, oftentimes we're blind. There's like a blind spot. We don't really see ourselves. We just see, like, the way I look at people is, geez, if the lights could go, 100 the light quality could be at 100, it could be really high, this light. You turn on the light. A lot of people are only operating at 50%, not 100% of what they're not really even there. Like, so when you see them, things look a little slower. Things operate a little slower. There's not that living essence, their dumbed down version of what they could be, need to be. And along the way, they've made these decisions to get them there. And someone who's very empathic, who's my ideal client, will feel this internally. They'll feel how out of sorts they are, and they will want to fix that. They're usually proactive achievers. They're not sitting on the sidelines. They usually want to do good in the world, even aware of all the crazy chaos drama in the world, right? So it's a more conscientious person that is my client.
Michelle, I love how you kind of brought that, full circle to really help us understand who are the people who would take action versus maybe the people who won't take action. From your story initially, it kind of felt like you had to kind of work through the mud, work through the hustle, work through the hard challenges to really understand and to really benefit from maybe the light at the end of the tunnel. Help us understand like how long you feel that journey took versus maybe if you had talked to yourself where you are today in 2026 versus maybe where you were, 15 years ago, kind of going through those different challenges.
Yeah, I would say I kind of stayed in limbo a good 4 year. I mean, we're always shifting. I'm never ending shifting as Michelle, but those 4 years could have easily been brought into 1 year easily. It's just, it took me that long to find my answers. Also part of my makeup, independent, stubborn, right? Independent. Let me say independent. So, but learning all those things, taking that 4 years, really, I rolled over I looked under everything. It actually was part of my education to go through that. Could I have done it easier if I had someone like me, if I trusted them? So I have to feel that that person has more knowledge than me. And that the hard part about someone like me is getting help is that I can sense what's underneath someone. Like, it has to be someone that really's got their stuff together, right? If you're going to, because I'm not just listening to your words, I'm watching how you're talking, I'm watching the tone of it, I'm watching how you live. If I had me back then, and I did have a mentor and he did help me, I probably would have come through it, at least it would have been 3 quarters sooner, would have been 3 years sooner. It would have been an easier transition, but I didn't have anybody.
And that's really powerful, Michelle. I want to take a second before I dive deeper to say if you're listening to the story, if you're listening to Michelle, if you're learning something, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share this episode with a friend. Because what Michelle is talking about is saying, hey, you can figure it out yourself. You're probably a high performer, just like Michelle was. You'll be fine. You don't necessarily need anybody, but it'll take you 4 years instead of maybe 1 year. And what is the value of those 3 years? You're never getting back that time. How much more could you accomplish by identifying what you don't know? And it's very hard to know what you don't know. It's very hard to know your blind spots. So I guess, Michelle, for you, if you don't mind me asking, how did you start to identify those blind spots? And how did you start to go on that journey to say, hey, this is where I need to kind of grow? And then ultimately, was it one straw that broke the camel's back? Or was it more of an accumulation of just, showing up and doing the work that really led to massive change?
I didn't know what the work was. All I knew was that something was majorly wrong. Something was majorly wrong. So there was one instance where I saw the light that directed me that directed all my focus from there. I realized that I looked in the mirror and I said, hey, this would not be happening. Like, I felt so out of control. And so I said, where is Michelle? Because usually took care of me and made my life nice and safe. Like, there was no bulletproof. I was bulletproof. And then I looked in the mirror and I said, who is Michelle? Because there was parts of me that went online that I had never met before. So I wasn't prepared for, and that kind of shifted my direction into, oh gosh, I'm a lot more complicated than I thought I was. There's a lot more to me than I thought there was there. So it helped me, I've also natural curiosity helped me dig deep to see what things were. And yes, there were lots of books and there were lots of mentors that came in and out, and they all taught me beautiful things. Some of them were lessons. So I'm just grateful that I'm here to share, to kind of bring some of this to the table, because I look at the world today and I see a lot of great intending people, but the lights are only half on and they don't necessarily know why the lights are off. Half of them are off. So it's about living resonance. How are you feeling? Let's get that core going. And what is it that drives you? What is it that makes you come alive? That is the passion and that you want to follow, right? So if something comes your way, someone asked me earlier, she goes, how do you know your yes from your no, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, guess what? I'm like, if my yes is not a hell yes, it's an absolute no. If I'm just saying, yeah, that sounds okay. Oh yeah, we'll do that. Most likely, and this is how we can get ourselves in trouble. We're saying yes to too many things. And then all of a sudden there's nothing left.
The idea of saying yes to too many things, the idea that there's nothing left. I'd really love for you to elaborate on that.
Every person, every scheduled event, every mandatory habit you put into your life, all of that requires a certain amount of energy, certain amount of, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to do that today, we're going to go over here. And each of us has a different capacity for how much stuff we can manage, right? How much stuff keeps us in our happy place. So I had a habit. My habit was, let me just say yes. I'm curious. Let me look at it. I'll just say yes. This sounds good. This sounds all right. But at the end of the day, I was torn in too many different directions. And the one or two main things that I want to do aren't getting the attention that I need. And, the illusion is you can do it all. That's the illusion.
And where do you think that illusion comes from? The idea that we can do it all?
I think we're egocentric. I think we just think we have everything. Like, not a big deal. We'll do everything.
Humans, mankind, or do you mean like we Americans? Like help us zero in on it a little bit more.
It's a human tendency. I think it's, I know Americans very well. I know humanity very well. If one candy tastes good, two candy taste even better. 5 candies even taste better than that. Let's just keep going, right? But there's a breaking point where you're losing equilibrium, whether it's your body, whether it's your emotions, whether it's your psyche, your brain. Like, you really have to connect inside to find that equilibrium. And if you're not giving yourself, if you're not in touch with all these parts of you, you can say spiritual, yes, that your intellect, your mind, your emotions, your relationships, right? Your family. If you're not in your body, if you're not really feeling, yeah, I got this. If you got too much stuff going on, it ends up depleting you. It's too much stuff. And you don't even realize you're kind of leaking energy here, leaking energy there, leaking energy over there.
And when you're in this situation where you're leaking energy all over the place, what does that do from an efficiency perspective in terms of like the quality of work, not just the quantity?
Well, the quality is definitely going down because you're distracted. You're distracted. The quality of everything kind of goes down because you're trying to do everything and something is going to. So, if I were to give your listeners some advice here, it would be to pause a bit between each word, between each thing you're doing, and just kind of pause. Give yourself that moment to integrate what's happening and where you're at and where you're going. That way, life isn't like going 80 miles an hour. Life is nice. You go for a ride in the car, 40, 50, 55 is nice. You get to see a lot of things. You're going 80, it's just a zoom right to the end, right?
And do you feel like some clients, either geographically or by profession, are more inclined to just be racing from one thing to the next versus
Yes,
maybe other clients who are maybe a little bit more slow paced?
yes. Type A achiever is racing.
What advice do you have for the listener who's maybe type A, type B to kind of self diagnose and to be able to really slow down, breathe, keep their feet on the floor, just really be hyper present in the moment to ultimately increase their and improve their efficiency?
I would say if you can't smile when you get out of bed, you get to go to work, you get to go here. If you can't smile at what your day is going to look like, you've been running through your days. And I know it's kind of sounds unrealistic that you might smile at it, but
But continue.
it's a good barometer because if you're grumpy, like where are you going with that? Like what, it's going to be a drudgery to do every other thing that you're doing.
But what if you're just not a morning person?
Yeah, there are those. I'm married to one of those. He just stays quiet. I'm like, hello.
I'm like, I wake up ready to conquer the day.
I do some days, not every day, but for the most part, my days, I'm happy about my days. And the blessing is some people are naturally just have, I don't say more dopamine, more serotonin. They're just happier inside, more positive. And other people are more grumpy. I mean, so the grumpy ones is the ones that are going to need some help because and they're the ones that are going to need the help. Or there's nothing wrong with a little grumpy. Everyone's a little grumpy sometimes. But if that's your attitude, if you hear what you say and what you say to yourself, what you say to other people is negative, then you're systematically depleting yourself and your life. And you're doing things because you have to do them. And this is going on. And then this is going on. I mean, you can hear it in my voice. Some people just live this. They live it day to day. And did you hear what so-and-so did to me? Like this kind of dynamic depletes you from staying in that joyful energy, from seeing the potential of where you're going and what you're doing. And I feel like 50% shut down. The lights are shut down. So, sometimes regrouping means taking some time, saying no to things, taking some time to get back to yourself. And for some people, that's a very scary proposition because they don't even know what that means.
So I think that's what I wanted to ask Michelle. Let's say your coworker, your friend, your spouse, whomever is that grumpy person. Maybe they wake up and they're immediately like, why me? Why is the sun on my face type thing? Why is the grass growing? Why did this person stop at the red light? Like whatever it is, just like a very, let's say, negative mentality, like why does the world hate me type approach. How do you like snap that person out of it? If that person is listening to this episode, how do they self-reflect to realize that, hey, there might be something under the hood that I need to check out. I might be like chronically fatigued, etc. I might need to just slow down.
How I would ask them, is this how you would like to live? Are you happy with this? They'll be like, well, how else am I going to live? This is just how it goes. This is how bad. Like they will make the case for that, right? And will I be able to reach them to want something different? Most likely not. They're the source of until somebody is humbled, they're not going to see. Until someone's in enough pain, they're not going to see or even notice that there's a problem here. And maybe, coming from a loved one, hey, hon, like I could, if this was your spouse or your friend, you can change how you are to kind of bring some awareness to them But at the end of the day, they hold all the cards. They hold all the cards. And what you do is you change how you engage it, and you put firm boundaries, or just step back. Let them be who they want to be. That's who they want to be. And none of us will be able to change another person. So I just kind of keep a little space, and I tell you how nice you look today. And I will be the uplift. But if they catch me in the wrong moment and they are too negative, I will let them know, hey, you need to relax. They need that mirror from somebody else, because if they're going to deflate the room of all the air, if they're going to create havoc within relationships, within anything, they need to settle down. And you know what? A lot of them will not like that. To me, that signals a lack of awareness, complete lack of awareness of how they impact the space around them. And most likely, I'd be very direct, because they might be able to hear it if I'm direct, and they might be able to storm out or be really annoyed, but at least it was said to them. And some people, if you have a boss or something, if you have a relationship with them, you might be able to say something, but it just depends on the person. If you can catch them, if you can ask them, this is what happens. If you can ask them questions, why do you feel that way? Are you sure this is what's going on? Like, you don't buy into their story. You don't argue about their story. You just find them interesting, find their perspective interesting. And then you show them a different example from you. Because sometimes if you point out what's bad, the argument becomes, oh, you said this to me and you said that to me. Then it just becomes a slippery slope.
I hear you. It feels like a lot of us, someone or end up sliding down that slope ourselves. So I guess for you, Michelle, it feels like there are a wide range of people that you can help, but the main obstacle is whether people actually are ready for that help. Does that sound like an accurate reflection of the situation?
I think you actually have that correct, 100%.
And do you feel like that's mirrored in like financial literacy as well? Because I know, or I would assume that that kind of comes up in some of these conversations as well.
My clients typically are not looking at financial literacy, although it's in my background. Finances are important, right? They're not usually focused on that, but what I found is a lot of times they're not very good with it.
And do you think that they're correlated, or just like most people aren't good with their personal finances?
I would say most people are not good at their personal finances. I think very few people are good at that stuff.
So when you look at like emotional intelligence and let's say personal finance, do you feel like these are just gaps that people don't talk about, whether that's culturally or in education or systemically? Like, help me understand how you look at it given your background in both.
I think that the financial situation has to do with, it's not really culture, it's not really school, it's really more family. I think if that family, like I was raised in a family that my mother was extremely good, my father was horrible, but my mother was extremely good. So that kind of rubbed off on me. She taught me different things. And if we come from a family that doesn't understand that or doesn't value that or it doesn't translate down. And then worse to that situation is the fact that a lot of women don't understand finances, and the men are taking care of the finances. So it's requiring an education of you in every instance, whether it's your emotional health, whether it's your financial health, all of this. And you can become more confident, more composed, more, you feel safer if you know what things are, as opposed to, that person needs to learn. If they didn't get it from their immediate family, they should learn, because, waking up in the middle of the night or being nervous about finances. Actually, I went for a walk the other day, and somehow I tuned into what it feels like to have purchased a home that stretches you, that makes you nervous because you may not have, I'm like, my God, I was giving my son advice. I said, please, just make your life work on your salary with your wife. Make it work that way, because I don't want you stressed out about what you're not doing, because in today's society, everything is fine. You can just do anything you want. But they're not considering the fact that there's a lot of stress that comes along with when you feel stretched and you feel worried and you can't do this. And there's a lot of peace of mind that comes up when everything is fine. Even if something goes wrong tomorrow or right tomorrow, everything is going to be okay, because we are not, we're not destitute. We're not being thrown out. We're not here. We're not there. So there is a I needed, and I don't know why a lot of people have a challenge with this. I think it comes back to you can have everything you want. You can have, no, you don't need five candies. You just need one or two. Like, and I think that external focus can absolutely have, I need, I want, can absolutely take away from internally. What do we need? Let's take care of what we need first. And safety is a top need. Love is a top need, right? The big house and the big car, they're not top needs. They are nice needs, right? You can like just kind of scale back what you're doing so that you are always safe. You're always being smart about your stuff. So yeah, I don't know
I
if I
love that, Michelle.
did I
No,
do it
you
right?
you you did a great job. Michelle, I've loved the conversation, and I'm curious to hear, if somebody's listening to this episode and they wanted to get in contact with you, they wanted to learn more about what you do, what would be the best way for them to reach out?
Typically, just go to my website, empathevolution.com, and you'll be directed. You can book a time with me to speak with me. You can get on my mailing list, whatever works for you. My focus is on helping people carry responsibility, carry success without losing themselves in the process. Really. Like it can extend all the way. How do I carry on with myself, with my marriage, with my family, and all these different dynamics without feeling like I've lost myself in the process. So we stop, compromising ourselves. We stop denying things. We stop looking the other way. We turn on the lights in the house, right? Let's turn all the lights on.
Eloquently stated, Michelle. This has been a very powerful conversation because it really peels back the layers on maybe some of the fatigue, maybe some of the frustration, maybe some of the anxiety, maybe some of the challenges that people are going through, but they don't realize. I love how you practically put it. When you wake up in the morning, do you wake up with a smile on your face? When you look at your day, are you happy about things, or is it just another obligation, another thing that you have to kind of drudge through? If you've listened to this episode and if you're feeling this internal friction between success and fulfillment, take that first step. Michelle mentioned going to her website. We'll include the link in the show notes. Take a look because ultimately you don't know what you don't know. And the goal of MyFinJourney is just to help you grow 1%. Part of that is identifying different gaps and seeing how you can exponentially scale. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, leave a review, and share it with a friend who needs to integrate some of these concepts into their life. See you guys in the next episode.